You should tell me. I'm very curious. Your reputation now is as a right winger because you did the Trump rally and told the Puerto Rico joke, which is a great joke. You know, yeah.
It was in the mix. It's a whole fucking conundrum. You would love to know the story because you would really understand it from a comedian's perspective. Like, I'm going there to kind of, you know, to do this thing about how, you know, free speech, this and that, and make those kinds of jokes. But I had a whole thing written and planned, you know, to go into the teleprompter. And that Puerto Rico joke was actually a joke that I had done a bunch in my stand-up, and it's part of a bigger joke with more front end and a longer back end. And
like what? I'm curious.
Well, it was you know, basically at the end of the normal joke, I go, you know, I'm talking about the problems in the world,
right?
And I go, and I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
All right, folks, be ready for this one. We are exploring a topic that is generating a lot of buzz in comic and political circles. Let's talk about Killing Tony and Bill Maher. I'm assuming you know these two names. They are in the news again. And to be honest, things are getting heated after this viral moment. How do I put this, you see? Tony went to a rally for Trump, created a joke about Puerto Rico that became widely popular online.
But no, there's no doubt it's insulting to Puerto Ricans, but, you know, I have been over the same territory. I mean, I don't think I would do exactly that joke, but I certainly have done many that have been objected to. And my thing is always, you know what? Everybody has to accept, in the framework of comedy, insults. Yeah. We just, you know, and they're never fair.
Yeah.
When we do a joke about the French surrendering, they did surrender, you know, to the Nazis. It's not like they are really more cowardly than anybody else. They planned badly, and they built something called the Maginot Line to keep out the Nazis after World War I. But they forgot to build it all the way to the ocean. So Nazis just went around it. It wasn't cowardice, it was stupidity.
Right.
Polish people are not especially dumber than anybody else, but they got that.
Right.
Supermodels don't always throw up.
Right.
But, you know, and that's the thing, is like, the jokes, are they fair? They're not.
Right.
And we all just kind of have to suck it up for the sake of comedy. That would be my...
I totally agree. Luckily, the Puerto Ricans, and I knew this...
This joke was actually rather similar to Wildfire. You name it, controversial, offensive, etc. The borders of comedy are a topic of much discussion, especially when politics is involved. Bill Maher is likewise no stranger to causing trouble, isn't he? He's just like that. When it comes to his jokes, he has a reputation for pushing the boundaries and, say, going too far. But here's the twist. If you will, Bill's views on Trump have been shifting and developing. Indeed. Watching Ma balance this political tightrope is just remarkable. To be honest, what we are seeing now is more like a conflict between divergent perspectives on comedy and freedom of expression, and it is all a result of the way we now see humor. Wait a minute. May I want a small favor from you? If you appreciate content that is genuine and unconventional, think about hitting the subscribe button. No pressure is present. I'll be right here when you get back. Have you already? You're a real one. The crew's greetings. Now let's get back to it. This is where it gets fascinating, people. We're analyzing a discussion that is occasionally both intriguing and a little unsettling. A lot of attention was paid to Kill Tony, the comic known for his edgy humor.
Into it, and I knew it at the last second when I was doing it at 2:30 in the afternoon, which was another terrible problem. If there's one thing I was upset
that was
about,
in the afternoon, that rally?
Well, it started in the afternoon and it was supposed to go to the evening. When I got there, I go, when am I going up in this thing? And they go, you're up first. Can you imagine?
Oh, you opened for the Trump rally.
I went up after the goddamn national anthem.
But did you do it because you're a supporter of Trump, or just because it's an opportunity and a paycheck? Was it a paycheck?
No, it wasn't a paycheck. I did it literally to hopefully, get some hopefully, if only 10,000, not to mention 100,000, maybe 200 if we're lucky, actual people to vote for him.
Oh, so you did want people to vote for Trump?
Yes,
Oh.
without a doubt.
Okay.
I think he gets a weird rap in this world, man. And, you know.
We're going to have to break off on that point. No, I you know my thing. I talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's okay that we disagree on that. I just didn't really know until this moment that I thought maybe you just were doing it for a gig and because you believe in free speech, but you're not really a Trumper. But, you know, I mean, I always say you can be against Trump and not hate half the people in the country who like him. And I mean, you can't write them off. This is the controversy I just went through.
To be honest, this is about more than one joke. It sheds light on how comedy and politics currently overlap. The Puerto Rico joke wasn't a joke in and of itself.
When I had dinner with them, to some, you know, very kind of woke people who always hated me because they're so woke, and you know, I just have no patience with those people.
Yeah.
And you know, I do think I won that one because you know, I mean, people understand, especially since I went right back to my job of doing what I've always done, which is criticizing him as much as I did before. It's not like I was taken in by him. But I was going to be honest, and also I think it's great to have an open dialogue, no matter who it is. And it's just so pointlessly illogical to think, as the Democrats, some of them do, that you have no power, which they have. You lost everything. You fucking lost everything. And now you're also not going to talk to the people who have the power. And Trump is the kind of guy, I knew this even before I went there, but I certainly was confirmed. He's the kind of guy who everything is personal relationships. You know, much more than, say, a guy like Obama, who was very logical and all business. And
it was also a component of Tony's larger comedy act, which he had done with little success in the past. But after being shared at a Trump rally, it swept over the political landscape like dry tinder. You know how a single spark can ignite everything? That's exactly what happened. You question, did Tony really intend to cause this much agitation? To be fair, he seems to have used this to challenge the scope of acceptable free speech. Comedy is supposed to push limits, isn't it? However, in this highly charged environment, every joke is dissected and every term is scrutinized. Comedians appear to be walking a tightrope between humor and popular opinion. It's complicated how Bill Maher is involved in all of this. Bill is no stranger to stirring up controversy with his scathing humor and unvarnished demeanor. Lately, he has started venturing into new directions. Many people are curious about how much he has changed, and his views on Trump have altered dramatically. He and Tony discussed the meaning of using comedy as a platform for political discourse. Tony and Ma discussed the nuances of the Puerto Rico joke. A joke's reception depends on a number of important criteria, including timing and Tony. The audience and the storyteller are dancing, and sometimes the gestures are misinterpreted. The two wondered why comedians must adhere to a code of ethics that isn't commonly observed in other entertainment sectors. They questioned why humor ought to be scrutinized so closely by politically correctness. But there was more to Maher and Tony's chat than that one joke. They went on to discuss how comedy influences political discourse and vice versa. They said that comedy might be one of the final bastions of genuine free speech. But things aren't flawless. They acknowledge that comedians nowadays have to navigate a labyrinth of societal norms and potentially damaging criticism. Maher talked about his own experiences and how he has been in danger because of his unpopular views. Remember when he was politically incorrect? He has been through it all, so he understands how hard it is to balance sticking up for what he believes in with appeasing the majority. That begs the question of whether offensive humor can still survive in a culture that is so quick to reject it. One of the main topics of discussion was the idea of changing political allegiances. Maher's perspective of Trump changed, or maybe I should say transformed, naturally. Lately, Maher has shown greater openness to conversations with individuals from diverse political views. Something with raised eyebrows and ruffled feathers. Okay. In a way, it reflects the times, demonstrating how political landscapes are evolving along with them, shifting allegiances and redefining coalitions. Interestingly, instead of alienating people who disagree with him, Maher sees this exchange with Tony as an example of how broader political involvement should be. Communication must be open. Maher said, handling divisive areas of humor, and politics is like walking through a minefield, but it's necessary for progress. The idea that communication is the best course of action, despite its challenges, isn't that kind of refreshing? At one point, they dispute over political caricature. Maher studied how Trump is commonly portrayed in comedy and the media to both emphasize and criticize his actual impact. Trump and other prominent figures are commonly overdone in funny circumstances. In its most basic form, comedy appears to exaggerate what is already more powerful than politics. This, of course, led them to discuss why such well-known figures as Trump seem to be so divisive. One of Maher's points is essentially a trade secret. Those in positions of authority, particularly those who are controversial, become both symbols and targets in the comedy industry. There is an irony in the fact that analyzing these personalities is both an art form and a potential threat to one's career. You might be wondering if this means Ma is shifting his political stance in any manner. He does publicly criticize all sides, and Tony concurred. They contend that political humor is not and should not be influenced by a particular ideology. More about using comedy to foster understanding emerged as the underlying subject.